Ignore whatever I put on the last update on this. This was round 4 that we just wrapped up, not round 3. Math is hard, especially when it comes to sports. My name's Derek, and I've got Steve Turek here. What's up, man?
How you doing, man? It's been great ride so far, and we have our Evil 8 now turning into the Frightful Four.
That's right. We're talking about the Monster Movie Madness Tournament 2019. We have 4 matchups we're going to talk about, one from each division, the East, North, South, and West, not necessarily in that order, waiting for us to tackle, and I'm eager to share the results with everybody.
Oh, I'm excited, too. I know some people on Facebook are excited, and I apologize for some of those people I might have misled with some things on Facebook because I didn't want anything to get out until you got to hear it from us as to who the winners were.
Well, let's not keep people waiting. Let's go ahead and dive into it. We'll start with the East Division. We had 2 giant monsters fighting with each other. We had King Kong, giant ape, and giant ants. Them.
Well, in this one, it was no contest the whole polling time. King Kong had the lead. Actually, for one day, them was in the lead. And then from that point on, King Kong was in charge. I think King Kong realized what to do with the ants, took them out, and had 64% of the vote and easily advanced on to the next round.
Yep, so we've got King Kong waiting in the wings to take on the winner of the North Division, which was...
King Kong does not take the winner of the North. King Kong will take the winner of the West.
See, I don't know how this works. Let's go ahead and move back then to the North Division because that's what's next on my list. Unless you want to do what? I don't know. Do you want to do West? I don't care how we do this. I don't care the order.
Oh, we'll go down. We'll go North.
Okay. All right. The North Division. This one was very interesting. 2 Universals, 2 Titans, 2 bona fide classics, 2 Karloffs, 1 Frankenstein versus 2 Frankenstein's monsters. It's Frankenstein versus the Bride of Frankenstein.
And this is one that is one of your classic 5 questions, if I remember right. Do you like Frankenstein or Bride of Frankenstein, or what's your favorite Frankenstein movie? Something like that. And everybody, it seems like a lot of your listeners will pick Bride, and some will pick Frankenstein. We finally can say it's now settled for at least a day. Frankenstein had 58.1% of the vote and beat Bride. For the longest time, Bride was in front for about half the polling time. And then Frankenstein's fans came in and took him all the way to the end.
Yeah, I was watching that with Bride taking the lead there for a little while. It was a little surprising. I thought it was going to be clear cut, and the more I thought about it, I know I might have said something otherwise in the last update, but the more I thought about it, I thought, okay, Frankenstein, it's the first in the Frankenstein legacy, so it should have. But I was a little shocked that it didn't blow it out of the water. But then Bride is a great film.
Well, and again, we're talking favorites, and I think what helped me was when we did that poll with the Frankenstein last year. We had best and favorites, and Frankenstein was the favorite then, and Frankenstein's the favorite now. Now we can say definitively because they were actually put head to head. Because before you could say we never went up against each other, and now they have.
Let's go ahead and move on to the West Division, which I'm sure you were watching with bated kaiju breath. Godzilla versus the Wolfman.
This was the tightest of all the matches, and for the longest time, it looked like Rich Chamberlain might have called this correctly with the Wolfman leading. But thankfully, the kaiju gods came down and said, no, Godzilla came back and beat the Wolfman with 55% of the vote. But it was close.
I don't know how I feel about this.
But what did you vote for, Derek? Who did you vote for?
Oh, I don't remember. It's been so long.
Oh, you voted for the Wolfman. I looked it up.
Oh, did you? I wonder if I did that just to spite you.
See, you could be cruel that way. I actually still voted for Creature, in his thing because I figured it's more of my favorite. But, if you want to be spiteful and let that decide your vote, that's your choice.
Nah, in all seriousness, it is a matter of favorites. And when I think about what's my favorite movie, when I compare movies, which one's on top of my list or whatever, it's really, at the time, whatever I want to pop into the DVD player or the Blu-ray player. Which one, if I had to pick one, which one would be the first one I'd grab? And between Godzilla and the Wolfman, I think I'd probably watch the Wolfman more immediately. You know what I mean?
I understand, and it's okay that you're in that minority group that likes the Wolfman, but thankfully...
Oh, come on. All right.
But we knew this would be close because it was the number 4 versus the number 5. So this was the toughest matchup going in to this. in this round.
Plus, Godzilla's in the zeitgeist right now with the new movie and everything, so...
Well, he's going to need it going into the next round, but we still have one more matchup to talk about first, the South Division.
That's right.
Your favorite division.
Creature from the Black Lagoon versus Horror of Dracula. Universal versus Hammer. I had mixed feelings about this. Of course, I picked Creature because that is my favorite film of all time. However, it sure would have been cool to see representation from Hammer make it to the end.
It would have. I mean, Horror of Dracula finally got knocked out, but it was closer than I was anticipating. I mean, Creature had 59% of the vote. It was winning by a bigger margin, and Horror of Dracula started to gain some momentum, but I don't think, even if we would have made it run the poll for 2 months, I don't think Horror would ever have overtaken Creature, because it's just more popularity, more of a favorite feel to it, more of that hybrid between the classic Universal and what everything was going into later on in the 50s and 60s and 70s. It's that great tweener movie for, I think, all the ages.
It's a good way to put it. You know, it is an iconic film, and I know that we joke about the movie, and I've been putting trailers in, or at least somebody's been putting trailers in.
I think it's Wednesday the Cat that's been putting the trailers in. I think Wednesday's been influencing the vote. Well,
you know, she loves the movie too, I'm sure. Yeah, that must be it. Anyway, Creature won. All right, so what does that leave us? How does that break down to the final, Frightful Four?
The way we had set up the Frightful Four to begin with was that the winner of the East would get the winner of the West, and the winner of the North would get the winner of the South.
Okay.
So let's talk about the North-South first, because that's your favorite.
Okay.
And we got Frankenstein versus Creature the Black Lagoon, 2 Universal movies.
Well, you know how I'm going to vote. Yeah, I mean, everybody knows how I'm going to vote. But Frankenstein is a strong film, and it's got a very strong following.
Creature is definitely the underdog going in to this movie. Both yours of my favorite movies are underdogs going into their matchups.
It's so weird to think about Creature and Godzilla being underdogs. It just doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, I don't understand. But it is what it is.
Now, I know we're doing movie versus movie, but I thought it'd be interesting if we did the tail of the tape, if it was Frankenstein's monster versus Creature, literally head to head.
Oh, okay.
All right. So going from what I could find in research, the Mary Shelley Frankenstein monster is about 8 feet tall and weighs about 300 pounds. Right?
Okay.
And we know in the movie he's got these superhuman strength. He's impervious to certain types of problems. You know, like he's not going to be knocked down quick. You know, his durability, that kind of stuff. But he does have a big weakness, and that is...
Robert De Niro.
Well, actually, you took that to a totally different place than I was thinking of.
Fire,
and people with pitchforks.
Ah, there we go. Okay.
Now, Creature is 6'5", so Frankenstein's got 1.5 feet reach on him. So if we're talking boxing, that's a big difference there, and is also 300 pounds.
True.
Is resistant to small arms fire. So I would think that Frankenstein's going to be at a disadvantage if he's trying to hurt Creature, you know, by hitting him with something, because the hide of the creature is being stronger that way. And Creature's also amphibious. So he can only be on land, from what I can research, for a short period of time. It's like the Aquaman syndrome of the old comic books, you know, before he has to go back into the water. So
okay.
And his negative, he reacts adversely to bright light, and also has a problem with women in swimsuits. He gets distracted and goes right to them.
Okay.
Just going by what's in the movies, you know. So in a head-to-head competition, I think if they were actually fighting, it would be near a body of water, let's say a lagoon or whatever, a moat. If Creature can get Frankenstein's monster into the water, it's going to be over real quick. Because once you put Creature into the water with his superhuman strength, his strong hide, and ability to breathe underwater, and Frankenstein, I think, still needs oxygen.
Yeah, I would think so.
So if that's the case, it would be over in a few minutes.
I mean, we do see him smoke, so I mean, he does use lungs.
Yes.
So I would assume so, yeah.
Yeah, so I would say if there were head-to-head competition, if it was in a spot where the Creature can get it into the water, it's definitely Creature. If it's land only, I would have to favor Frankenstein, because he has to go more than a few minutes or so, and then the Creature's going to have that oxygen problems, breathing problems, because he's been on land too long. So then it would go to Frankenstein. So it really depends on where your battle is being held as to which of these two monsters would come out on top.
I could see that. I would think, though, that Creature is probably, or the Gill Man would be wily and intelligent enough to steer the battle toward water of some sort, because we do see him kind of sort of setting traps, or at least manipulating his environment in the first film to trap the boat in the Black Lagoon. So as long as he could maybe steer the battle towards somewhere that's advantageous to him. Whereas I don't think Frankenstein's monster really has, at least as presented in the films, really has the intelligence required to kind of think beyond a slugfest.
I can understand that a little bit. To me, it'd be an interesting contest. It all depends where it's set up at. If Creature was captured and taken to land, which we know has never happened in any of the movies, and then I would say, and somehow, let's go a little crazy of a movie here. Some mad scientist makes the Frankenstein monster. Another mad scientist captures the Creature, and they decide to put the two together in an arena battle.
Well, that'll be next year's tournament. So I'm just.
Well, there's never been a Frankenstein versus Creature movie, so that's the sad part. So.
Let's circle back to that here in a little bit. So, yeah, that's what we're looking at. I'm to go back to the films themselves, they're both great films. They're both Universal, but they still are both very different from each other. The first Frankenstein film is early in not just Universal history, but motion picture history. Not a lot of music, not a lot of dynamic camera movements and that sort of thing. Whereas Creature was underwater, 3D, wonderful music all over the place. So, yeah, I don't know, man.
I'm going to personally vote for Creature, but I'm going to go back to what Christopher Mims said back when we had him on there. Name recognition.
Okay.
As Frankenstein, I got to give the head to Frankenstein. The Creature, I think, is right up there in name recognition, but a lot of people, if I was to say to them, both of them, I can see a lot of people voting for Frankenstein. Okay. The average person. Now, we'll see where the listeners go in a little bit.
Okay. All right. Well, before we move on, I just wanted to circle back to the Frankenstein's monster versus Gillman thing. There was a movie in 2005 called Frankenstein versus the Creature from Blood Cove, which is about as close as I think you're going to get. It was directed by William Winkler. I've seen the film. It's okay. The score is fantastic, though. I think I've listened to the soundtrack more than I've actually watched the film. But it's out there, so if you kind of want to see a kind of sort of Gillman versus a kind of sort of Frankenstein monster, there you go.
There you go. There is a matchup. I was just meaning none of them in the classic Universal time.
Oh, sure. I just, I'm a completist, and, if I didn't mention it, I'm sure somebody else would. So let's go to the next round, the next matchup.
And that one, we have the underdog Godzilla versus King Kong.
Wow. It's amazing how that happened. Two titans of monstrous terror, terrifying terror. That's not really, anyway. Yeah, it's going to be wow. Godzilla's got the bump right now from the new movie that's out right now and all this new interest in all things Godzilla. Whereas King Kong, Skull Island was a few years ago. It's been a little while, and I know that eventually we are going to see the King Kong versus Godzilla film, but I don't feel like King Kong's really in the pop culture center of things right now.
We've already seen the King Kong versus Godzilla film. Next year is the Godzilla versus King Kong film.
Oh, picky. You know what I meant. So when you did your tale of the tape and broke this down, what size did you use for Godzilla and King Kong? Because they keep changing over the years.
Well, we're using the 1933 and the 1954, the movie versions.
Okay.
So in 1933, RKO said that King Kong was about 15.2 meters high, or about 50 feet. Now,
all right,
15.2 meters. Godzilla in the 1954 film is 50 meters tall. They didn't really have a weight for King Kong, but Godzilla's 20,000 metric tons. I don't know. If King Kong was that much weight with that little height, he would be the round mound of the rebound.
We could probably calculate what an estimated weight would be if we look at what an average ape weighs and compare its height and then do some math. And such, which I'm really not prepared to do right now. But bottom line is Godzilla's much bigger.
Why don't we just give him 5,000 metric tons?
Okay, fair enough. So, yeah, if we were just doing beast versus beast, monster versus monster, Godzilla takes it just from size alone. There's absolutely no way.
Well, also, Godzilla in that movie is shown to be impervious to all conventional weapons and has atomic breath and is radioactive and amphibious.
He's got a ranged weapon that is quite devastating. I know King Kong can pick up a rock and throw it or whatever, but come on. It's an atomic breath, man. Yeah, I love King Kong. I really do, but I think it would not be a long fight. And I think our favorite kaiju, or your favorite kaiju anyway, would take it.
Oh, yeah, because especially you think about King Kong was taken down by planes of just bullets.
So I'm glad you went that route instead of just saying something like King Kong was just taken down by a woman. It was Beauty that killed the beast.
Well, according to one person.
And Godzilla is not very beautiful.
Godzilla in 1954 was only taken out by somebody making the oxygen destroyer, and I don't think King Kong, though we've heard in movies that King Kong is an intelligent creature.
That's true.
I don't think he's making an oxygen destroyer anytime soon. So.
No. I mean, he's got opposable thumbs, but that's about as far as that's going to go.
Yes. So I put for weaknesses for Godzilla, oxygen destroyer, and for King Kong, blondes and bullets. Okay,
then. Neither of which I don't know where I'm going with that. Yeah, so that's how it would turn out with the monsters fighting themselves. What do we think about the films, though? What do you think's going to happen? You keep saying Godzilla's the underdog, but again...
Well, the reason I'm saying Godzilla's the underdog, I'm basing this off our poll, which we ranked everybody off of, and King Kong was on over 80% of the ballots as for a favorite movie. When we asked everybody to give us their 20 favorite movies, Frankenstein was on something like low 70s, and then Creature and Godzilla were like 65 and 64% of the ballots, because there was only one vote difference between those two.
Okay.
So using that data is why I'm presupposing that both You're My Favorites are underdogs. Name recognition, all four of these have great name recognition. It just depends on which one is going to be more in the name or more popular of a favorite movie with our voters. And it's interesting. When you look at these four films, you know, there are things similar about all of them, in that really mankind caused all these bad things to happen. Like in Godzilla, he was doing fine underwater until somebody dropped a hydrogen bomb on him. And then he came back rather upset and took it out in the closest area, which ended up being Tokyo.
Okay.
He couldn't help. I mean, how would you feel if somebody dropped a bomb on you? I mean, you really wouldn't be too happy with the people above the water.
True.
King Kong was perfectly fine on Skull Island. And they had to take him from Skull Island to New York, and now suddenly he's a monster. He didn't want to go to New York, that kind of stuff. He was perfectly content where he was. He was worshipped as a god and everything. I mean, he was getting women all the time. Why would he want to leave? Frankenstein's monster was made by mad scientists and put together and then treated poorly. So he was a product of showing you nature, nurture. Obviously, he was not nurtured properly. Creature, perfectly happy in his lagoons, almost like the King Kong story. Happy in his lagoon, they come with the boat, and they start killing all the fish. They start dropping stuff in the lagoon. I mean, he had to go take some reaction. It's like, he's almost like the original get off my lawn type of person.
Okay.
Get out of my lagoon, people. He was just defending his own turf. I cannot blame any of these monsters, creatures. I don't think any of them are what I would consider an evil creature. I consider them all neutral. You hurt them, they hurt you.
So they're all just minding their own business, even Godzilla.
Did you hear any Godzilla attacks prior to the bomb being dropped on him? No.
Well, there is all that talk about, that the people on that island knew what he was.
Well, we're basing this off just the film, but yeah, you're right. I mean, they had a myth, but was it really that Godzilla or was it a different creature? We'll never know.
That's true.
And I bet that creature didn't have atomic breath and wasn't radioactive until he got the hydrogen bomb dropped on him.
Fair enough.
And it's those kind of things. So it's hard to say. I mean, I know there's other movies, but we're only basing what we saw in those particular movies. Because some people say, well, in this movie here, there's a backstory that goes to that, to that, to that. It's like, I don't care. I'm only worried about the 1954 movie and its self-contained thing. Same thing with the other ones. And really, King Kong, I mean, it's like American, it's not American, but European American colonialism, where they're taking somebody from another country and utilizing them in a way that they didn't want to be used. I mean, there's a lot of metaphors you could put in these films. But
that's true.
I think that's one of the reasons these films have had such lasting appeal. As a lot of people, the average person just thinks, oh, it's just a monster movie. Godzilla is just a big guy in the suit, and it's all funny and laughs. It's like, if you've ever seen the Gojira movie, it's not funny and laughs.
No, not at all. It starts out as a dark horror film. It really does. I've heard people, I think it was Jeff Dean over on the Kaiju Cast once described Godzilla as being pretty much a Frankenstein film in terms of tone and how it was shot and how it's presented. It is a scary, scary movie. They don't get kind of goofier and goofier until much further along in the franchise.
Exactly. And King Kong is like an adventure movie for a while, and then it goes into where you have the giant beast. You see him fighting these other creatures on the island, the dinosaurs and stuff, so he's very prolific and strong. And then for whatever reason, like I said, they decide to take him to New York to make their bang for their buck, which leads to King Kong's demise. Like I said, we can go down the list with the other ones too, with Frankenstein, Monster. I mean, there's so many people, like, he's such a sympathetic character because he didn't know that the girl wasn't going to float, which you could say is probably the most horrific act that he does. He didn't know.
Truth. That is true.
And Creature, he knew what he was doing, but then again, it was a turf war. You come in, you start doing this stuff to my people, which is his fellow fish and lagoon creatures. And he had to go, he's like, I got to go take these people out because they're the invasive species.
So it was self-defense.
Self-defense all the way.
Okay.
He broke into his place. I mean, the law would have been on Creature's side.
Okay. So who do you think's going to win then? Did we decide?
I want Godzilla and Creature to win for two reasons. I don't
know if I need that.
Both of them are my favorites. And two, it would be fun as heck if you and I have our two favorite movies go head to head.
I've been burned before, Steve.
Oh, what do you mean, that 1954?
Shut up. Yes, the rallies last year.
No. Sheer stark terror grips you in underwater 3D in Creature from the Black Lagoon.
The most terrifying monster of the ages rises from the sea, raging with pent-up passions.
Making every man his mortal enemy, every woman's beauty his prey.
Creature from the Black Lagoon in 3D, starring Richard Carlson and Julie Adams.
Every horrifying scene leaps out of the screen right at you.
A Universal re-release, rated G.
We'll see how it turns out, though. Ultimately, it's not between you and me. It's what the listeners decide.
Yeah, the listeners are going to decide. And who do you think? I mean, I think in theory, it should be. It's in theory. If I go with my mind, it's going to be King Kong against Frankenstein. My heart wants it to be Godzilla versus Creature.
Boy, I am torn. I don't know. I really don't know how it's going to turn out. I'm going to be that guy that waits until the very, very last minute to put in my vote.
Well, we know you're voting for Creature.
Right, I know, but the other one, that's so difficult. I don't know.
It's the city.
I really don't know.
And it would also be good if both Godzilla and Creature make the final, because it's both of them their 65th anniversary.
No, that's true. That'd be kind of neat.
65 years old, but they're both going strong.
Yeah, let's see how they play out with the next round. So people, again, can vote for their favorites. Head over to tinyurl.com/MMMadness2019. That's MMMadness2019. And because this episode is going to be going out over the weekend, let's give people another week to vote. Let's have your votes in by June 9th. And then Steve and I will record a results episode and release that either on that following week's episode of Monster Kid Radio or as a special episode like this one is. Sound good to you?
Sounds good to me. Let's hope everybody votes. Get your friends to vote, share it, make it get as many votes as we can. We've been averaging between 86 to 108 votes per round.
Yeah, the more votes, the better. So if we can get more people involved, even if you didn't vote in previous rounds, that's okay. Come on in and vote in this round.
And Derek,
in round 5.
And Derek, to help you, instead of doing round 5, just call it the Frightful Four.
I will now.